Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. All right, so I see a lot of unfamiliar faces in the audience, and I see familiar faces in the audience. I'm Faith Vicinanza. This is Vicinanza Studios and Gallery. This is an introduction done by DeAnne Gauya, who is a good friend of mine and has a local meditation, yoga, massage therapy studio and teaches all kinds of wonderful stuff, and I'll let her talk about all of that great stuff. So we're here to provide a nice, short, half-hour introduction to what does it mean to age well, optimum aging, into your 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. And I'll leave all the rest of that to her. So we are filming it, just so you know, because it's going to go up on our Vicinanza Studios YouTube video blog. We put up a video every Sunday of something of interest to our audience. And then you can also sign up to get on our calendar, or you could grab information about upcoming events off of the front desk. And I'm going to turn it over to DeAnne. Thank you.
Okay, my friends. So before I introduce myself, I thought I would just start the way I start many of my offerings, which is just to take a couple of seconds to ground yourself. So I encourage you to uncross your legs if your legs are crossed, and plant your feet solidly onto the floor, rooted into the earth, and to sit up as straight as you can, and just really come into your body, come into your breath, taking a long breath in, creating lengthened space, taking a long breath out, rooting yourself down, and just really dropping from your mind into your body, moving from thinking to feeling and being in the present moment. So I'll just sound the singing bowl 3 times and just allow the sound to penetrate your awareness and anchor you here and now. So thank you for that. And I like to begin that way because each one of us has choices that we can make every single day that impact our health and fitness, our emotional, spiritual, physical fitness and well-being. And it really is all about being in the present moment, right? Because so much of our time we realize maybe that we spend ruminating in the past, or going back to a past version of ourselves and kind of beating ourselves up, or we have an identification of ourselves like, I'm good at this, I'm not good at that, I used to be able to do this, now you get it, or just this definition of yourself. And to age optimally, one of the first things I think that is helpful to do is to kind of clear the slate and to come in with as open a mind as you can, and to step into the present moment and be with what is, with the idea or potentiality that things can be much different in the future. So your past doesn't dictate your future. And the mindset of optimal agers is so important. I know I shared this Jane Fonda video that she shared on her 87th birthday on CBS this morning, and she talked about it adding 7.5 years to your life, having the mindset that aging isn't this like slow rot that maybe people think of, but instead, if you have the mindset that anything is possible, regardless of your age, just that mindset helps you out. And then the piece where I kind of really come in is the physical fitness, because I believe that most things that you want to do with your life require some level of physical fitness and independent living so that you're able to make these choices. So this is kind of like where I started all off, but the present moment, the more you can become present with what is, and then you can use your breath, use your awareness to then explore your muscle balance or strength or agility or flexibility, all these things, and work with what is, then you create a new reality. So that's why I start this way. I'll share just a little bit about who I am and why I'm so passionate about this subject matter and kind of how it all started and why I'm wearing my blue suit, my fancy blue tights and blue shirt. So for me, it all started back really when I was 4 years old, and I remember exercising alongside of my mother, probably with a chair kind of like this, or who knows what, but with Jack LaLanne. I don't know if any of you can remember Jack LaLanne, like the grandfather of fitness, but here he was a pioneer. Nobody was doing this on television, and all he had was his blue suit and his chair, right? And he would tell you about the importance of movement, and he would, so me and my mom would be there and we'd be swinging our legs side to side and doing our plies and, you know, all the rest, following along with Jack. And at the time, you know, I was a 4-year-old girl, so I think it was just a fun way to connect with my mother and feel like, you know, I'm doing like big girl things here, right? But I realized down the road when I became interested in exercise physiology and nutrition and fitness, that's really where the seed was planted for me. And I grew up being a gymnast, and then I ended up studying biology and psychology. I thought I wanted to be a medical doctor, but then I discovered that really wasn't the right path for me. I just wasn't cut out for all the stress and everything. And so I decided at that point, when I knew I wasn't going to go into formal medicine, I'm like, why don't I just learn how to keep people healthy and figure out how to keep them out of the doctor's office and out of the hospital rather than dealing with them once they're in. So that path led me down to getting a master's degree in exercise physiology and nutrition, because I thought everything relates to the nutrition and fitness. So I began my career kind of studying that and doing that, and one of my first jobs I had was at the White House Athletic Center, with the White House under George Bush #1. And one of our first experiences was the Presidential Fitness and Sports Month, May, and it opened up and we got to be on the White House lawn, and there were all these dignitaries there, all these people from the fitness world. Arnold Schwarzenegger was there. That's where I got the picture that was used on the flyer, me with my funny 80s haircut. And, anyway, but being at that event, who do I see at the event? In his blue suit, Jack LaLanne, and I run over to Jack, and I'm like, oh my God, Jack, you look fantastic. He's like, well, I feel fantastic. And he dropped down, I'm not kidding, did like 12 perfect one-arm push-ups and then jumped right back up. And I looked at him, I was like, how old are you? And he said, I'm 78. I was just like, oh my God, well, I mean, that's just fantastic. And that experience, you know, seeing Jack as a little girl, and then seeing him on the White House lawn, you know, that many years later, it was what, probably 20 years later, 25 years later, and he looked so, I mean, he didn't look to me any different. He still had great posture, he still looked great in his blue suit, and he was able to do those push-ups. I was like, he's on to something here, right? If he can do this at this age. So this is what really kind of sparked my interest in this subject of how can I take what I know and help people who are above 60, in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, live the fittest life they possibly can, so that they can kind of be like Jack. Maybe not as identical, because he was like, he took it to extremes, and he was like towing boats across whatever that is, to Alcatraz. I guess he carried a boat with the people for his 80th birthday celebration. So we don't need to do that, but we do have a lot of possibilities. So that's what I want to talk to you about. So to begin with, again, going back to mindset and kind of anchoring ourselves into current understandings of the aging process and longevity and the factors that impact longevity. So one thing which has become very clear is age is really just a number. And when they say age is just a number, you really have two ways to look at your age. So you have your chronological age, which is your age in years, how many years you've been on this planet, which is what most people associate with aging. But what's more important than your chronological age is your biological or your physiological age, which is the age of every cell in your body, every system in your body. And the age of these systems, number one, is very dependent upon how much you've used those systems in the past. So the use it or lose it kind of way of looking at things apply. So that's one. But two, what they never understood before, neuroplasticity has shown us that regardless of age and regardless of fitness level, wherever you start, wherever you are, you can improve no matter what age you start. Every system in your body is constantly remaking itself. The cells are turning over, incorporating new information. The DNA is changing. And so you can actually improve your fitness as you age. So you can be 35 years old and not take care of yourself, be overweight and a couch potato playing video games all day, watching you, whatever, and not be healthy and have actually the biological age of like a 40 or 50-year-old. On the other hand, you can be 40, 50 years old, but take really great care of yourself and exercise and eat a good diet and watch your weight and keep yourself stimulated mentally and emotionally and have connection, all these things which they associate with longevity. And you can actually have the biological age of a 30-year-old. So this concept to really wrap your brain around aging, so it really means that age is just a number. And one thing I find so interesting, there was a really great book published last year by Chip Connolly, he's the founder of the Modern Elder Academy. He also started Airbnb. But anyway, he's done a lot of research on midlife, and now the definition of the chronological age range for midlife is anywhere from 35 to 70, right? That's a huge range, right? 35 to 70, but what makes the definition what it is because of biological age. So when they look at the actual, fitness measurements of people in midlife, this is why the age gap is so great. Anyway, so I think is that new information for anybody? Did you realize this, or is it something which is unbelievable?
Some news.
Some news?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I'm hoping, I'm not trying to, proselytize and convince you of something new, but to open your mind maybe to a new way of looking at things and new possibilities. And this is what I always say to clients when we start. And I can give you some examples, but when we start, I say, what do you have to lose? And they'll be like, well, really nothing. I'm like, what do you have to gain by thinking that this is true and at least giving it a try and seeing how far we can go? And they're like, really nothing. And so I'm like, so let's do it, right? I mean, because here you are the way you are right now, and all we have is ways that we can potentially improve your health and fitness and open your life up to greater possibilities. So, I just think it's fantastic, and I'll just give you one real life example that I use frequently, but because it's true and it deals with somebody who came to me, and he was 79 years old, a client in Newtown, and his family reached out to me. He had just lost his wife of 60 years, love of his life, and he was overweight and had just lost his wife, wasn't working, was a little bit, down, of course, and he had hypertension and some other health concerns. So they said, do you think you can help my father-in-law? And I said, well, let me talk to him and see what we can do. So I met with him and we talked, and he was game to try. So we began walking around the block to improve his cardiovascular fitness. He had actually survived cancer, lung cancer, so he only had 1.5 lungs. He was overweight, as I said, underfit. So we started with that, and we started with some basic weight training and conditioning, muscle conditioning, flexibility work, just a really well-rounded fitness program. And we worked on his nutrition a little bit. We had him write down everything he ate, and we kind of said, well, why don't we cut this out? Why don't we cut this out if we're gonna eat out, maybe not 10 times a week or 8 times a week, but maybe 2 times a week, or what can we change? Anyway, the bottom line, in a year, he was able to do his first 5K. And now it was slow. It was a slow 5K, but it didn't matter. He went from not being able to walk around the block once to being able to walk nonstop for 3.1 miles. He, in that first year, lost 40 pounds. His blood pressure was under control, and he was starting to feel better, not just physically, but emotionally. He was just so surprised because he's, I'd come to the door and he's just like, I can't believe it, but I actually look forward to you coming and having our sessions together. He goes, I never thought I would say that because I wasn't an exercise person, and I didn't think of myself as an exercise person. Anyway, so now I still work with him, and he's 87. So we started at 79. Here he is at 87, and not only can he do 5Ks, he's off all this medication. He went from 250 to now 199 in weight. He's able to keep up with his grandchildren. He goes to football games and baseball games. He climbs up the bleachers. They're like, aren't you tired, Dad? Nope, I'm fine, I'm good, I can do it. His balance is better than ever before, and he, started traveling initially on his own because he always liked to travel, so he'd go with senior groups and stuff. But now last year, he found a widow who lived down the street from him, so now he has a girlfriend, and now he and his girlfriend are doing all these trips. So I share this story because to me it's such a powerful example of never being too old and all the possibility that can be there regardless of age, regardless of fitness level, if you're just open to learning some new things. So teaching the old dogs new tricks, which is very possible. So I'm really, because we're only talking for a half an hour, so I have so much that I could go into, but I thought I wanted to leave you all with some things that you can just take with you when you go home, and I have actually my life mandala exercise that you can all take if you're interested. But if we look at people, so this is people across the whole planet, and you look at people who live in the blue zones, and these are just zones throughout the world where people live to 100 or more, and they're very healthy. And you look at what the common denominators for these people are. So the common denominators are exercise. So a lot of them just move naturally. So you don't have to, have a personal trainer like me or whatever, but if you can just incorporate more movement into your daily lifestyle, so, parking further from the grocery store if you can, living in the village, taking walks around the beautiful trails here, anyway, gardening, dancing, exploring new things. Faith offers a lot of cool things here, from karaoke night, singing, but even getting involved, getting yourself out and moving and about can help. And then another thing is having a sense of purpose in your life, a reason that you want to live and want to live a full, long life. So for people, I think of, particularly as you get, a little bit older, I ask them to think about, what are the things you've always wanted to do, or places you've wanted to go, or people you've wanted to see, or something you wanted to try. And if you can kind of get hooked into that and get excited about that, then it really boosts your emotional and your mental fitness, because then you're engaged, you're interested, you're curious, and you're stimulating your mind because you start to learn and experience new things. The third thing is stress reduction, which we started kind of with a stress reduction practice. So mindfulness practices, yoga, there are so many different things. You might have something that works well for you, whether you like cooking or knitting or painting. There are many things, but trying to do your best to keep your stress levels low or moderate is something really important. And again, back to mindfulness and knowing your body in the moment, kind of just being able to be cognizant of when your heart rate goes up a little bit, when you start to feel agitated, maybe when you feel triggered by certain things, like watching the news, for me lately, has been very triggering. And so being cognizant of that and then making conscious choices related to stress, like what do you want to plug yourself into and what do you have the choice to not plug yourself into, knowing that you really don't have any impact over these things. So maybe choosing to unplug or inform yourself just to the need to know enough information, but not so it's going to negatively impact your health and well-being. Other factors are the 80 rule. So these people eat mindfully and they stop when they're about 80% full. They eat slowly. Most of the people in the blue zones eat locally produced food, minimally processed, fruits, grains, things that are, you can recognize what they are without having to look at the ingredients on the box. Plant-based diets, you're down on plant-based diets? Okay, anyway, but for the people in the blue zones, most of them eat a plant-based diet with some minimal amounts of protein from various sources. They say wine at 5, but that's kind of not as popular now. I think really it's more of, if you don't drink, don't start. And if you do, keep it to a very minimal amount. And I think to me, the wine at 5 is more about the ritual of relaxing and settling down. And I don't think it's as much about the red wine. Like you could drink green tea at 5 with friends and kind of calm everything down and wind things down without the wine. The other factors are faith, having a sense of belonging, spirituality, and whether that's a formal, religious affiliation that you have. It's not so much about that. It's more about this connection with something much greater than yourself, a higher power, the divine, again, whatever resonates for you, or nature, a connection with nature, the natural world, that you're not alone. Loved ones first, they're very connected with family, and then the right tribe. So the idea of social networks and places of community where you can be with like-spirited, like-hearted, like-minded people is really, really important. And I was thinking back again to the Jane Fonda interview when she was talking about mindset, but also connection and community. And at the end of the segment, I thought of Faith's Vichinanza Studio Galleries, because they talked about art and how art of all different forms, whether it's dancing, painting, reciting poetry, singing, whatever it might be, but coming together as older people and learning these new things, doing it together, has a lot of health benefits. So how am I doing on time, Justin?
23 minutes.
Okay, it's 23 minutes. So I'm going to share just 2 other simple little things that I thought I could share with you. So this is an exercise band, and when I do teach my class online, my Beyond Optimal Aging with the Guaya Fit Surfers method, which is a whole method anyway, but we do use this band frequently in various things because it's simple, and everybody has one. It's simple. We can do many different things. We can do muscle conditioning, strengthening, stretching, but also for me, it's an important example physically to demonstrate the kind of mindset you want to go into. So I talk about adaptive flexibility. So when you are supple in mind, body, and spirit, right, you can stretch a little bit and then maybe come back and not come back the same, but you come back a little different than you did. But if you're rigid, right, if you have no flexibility, no elasticity, no open-mindedness, no kind of desire to have anything be different, you're just very set in your ways, then probably optimal aging or exercise for optimal aging, my program is really not for you, because you have to have, I believe, some kind of flexibility, adaptability, openness to want to stretch your limits, push your limits a little bit, and the band can be a super helpful, tangible example of how to do that. And then the other thing we use is a Pilates ball, which is very simple, but again, we talk a lot about resilience and adaptability and adaptive flexibility, right? So again, this ball, you bounce it, and right, you can bounce it and it comes back, right? So just like us, if we're flexible, and this ball flexible and pliable, right, we can bounce back easily. If we were not flexible and pliable and I threw this to the ground, it would just stay there, right? And so I like to incorporate physical tools to experientially kind of lock it into your body, like, so you want to become in your body, mind, and spirit like that rubber band or like this ball with the flexibility to bounce back and be stretched but come back differently, and all of that. So that's my presentation for today. I will take a couple of questions, and again, you can just reach out to me if you want to talk one-on-one. I do have a website where I have some things that are free that you could access, a questionnaire. If you're interested in the life mandala exercise, I can give you that and you can play with that at home. So, Dave?
Oh, two things.
Oh, sure. Yes. I am going to be offering my Beyond Aging Gracefully with the Surfers Method. It's an 8-week online hybrid course. So I have these lessons that are dropped on Thursdays that you can access if you have a computer, laptop, whatever. And then you can work with the lesson at your own pace. And then we meet for 90 minutes on Sunday as a group via Zoom. And there we have group support and accountability, and I customize the program for you. So if you're having difficulties or questions, we work through that. And then there are optional one-on-one pieces to the program as well. So although the course is online, so you can access it from anywhere you are, we're not in person, there is a lot of accountability and a lot of customization and keeping you on track so that you actually get results from the program. And it's all about optimal aging. And when I say Beyond Aging Gracefully, I have people kind of define what does that mean for you. So it's like, we want to do it, I don't know, unapologetically. We want to do it boldly. We want to do it, you fill in the word that resonates for you, but it's something suggesting like where you want to go, like the next level you want to go. So that's my online program. It's going to start on the spring equinox, and you can get all the information on my website. And then on
March 15th.
March 15th,
Sponsored by Heritage Village, Yes I Can program.
The Heritage Village Yes I Can program, through them, I am going to be offering a 2-hour talk where we're going to take everything kind of that I gave you today and go much beyond that, and a little more information, but then some more experiential things like actual exercises you can do at home very easily, like using a chair like Jack did, certain things which are good practices to implement into your daily life to help you with flexibility. And I try to make it and balance, for instance, so I try to make things as practical and easy as possible. So like, for example, balance things, which I would encourage people to do at home a couple times a day. If you have a counter or you have a chair or you have a banister, to just stand on one leg and challenge your balance, focus your gaze, and then see if you can let go of the chair. And then because balance is a huge component of aging, but you can just do that at home. And anyway, so things like that, things like squatting, getting in and out of a chair, that work with the bands. I'm going to try to make it as practical and experiential as possible, and then answer some questions to help people maybe then go home from the experience with like a little mini program that they could do by themselves, for themselves, and share with others if they wanted. So if you're interested in this subject, you can take it a lot farther. I guess the last plug, since I see DeAnne here, who's so nice. I do teach at the Riverwalk Athletic Club across the street on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. I teach from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Exercise for Optimal Aging, where the ladies, we do all of this stuff together. We explore cardiovascular fitness and agility and balance. And while DeAnne maybe could say a couple words, I think we have some fun.
Oh yeah, we have a lot of fun. I'm not a dancer, so my moves, I can't move my arms and my legs together, but I'm learning. And the one thing that I have found that I've gained a lot of strength in is my arm strength with the weight training that we've done. And I enjoy it immensely. I missed it yesterday because of the snow, and my whole day was thrown off because I really wanted to go to class, which I don't really like what we do there because I can't do it.
But we leave the egos at the door,
fun.
right?
Yeah, it's fun. You say, okay, let's see what I can do today.
Right, right. So anyway, so those are your opportunities. It's a pleasure meeting you all, the people who I don't know, and you can check out my website, and I have cards here if you want, and if you're interested in this life mandala exercise, you can feel free to take this. It just basically goes through the components that I talked about as far as people who live in the blue zones, and you can kind of assess yourself, so it just has the questions, and then a little mandala. I'm sorry, my printer, the colors on my printer are acting funky, so they're not as vibrant as they were supposed as they should be, but the idea is that each piece of this puzzle is like a part of the optimal aging equation: the physical, the diet, the connection, community, the purpose, the spirituality, all of that. And you just kind of say where you're at on these different pieces of the puzzle, and then it kind of gives you an idea, like, okay, this is what my current life mandala looks like. And then I encourage you to create your future life mandala. Like, ideally, what would you like your life mandala to look like? And then that gives you some places where you're like, let me maybe focus here. I'd like to improve in this area. So it just is, like, to me, a fun little exercise. Doesn't take much time. So if you want, you can take one of these, and that's it.
Thank you so much, DeAnne.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So glad you all came.